Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Shaolia, Warring States. Shaolia is brought to you by Bad Comic Games. It's for 2 or 4 players, ages 13 and up, and games range anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. Chaos has erupted on the continent of Shaolia, and the lords from all the regions have risen up in order to gain control and become the next emperor. Wars, big and small, have broken out across the continent. Now, you have the opportunity, using your cunning and strategy, to be the next leader. Gain the throne of power. Will your city-state be the next wealthy trade center, or will you be a military might, or will you be heavy in defense? Either way, it's up to you to decide what the next path of your civilization will be. So your goal in Shaolia is to either destroy your opponent's palace by doing 12 points of damage or gaining 18 cultural points. Now, there are several different ways to play this game. So setup, we'll talk about some of the basic setup here, but really all the different game modes vary greatly and add different cards and do very different things. You might be playing a game that's heavy on trading. You might be playing a mode that's heavy on attacking. And there's even a 2-on-2 battle royale, so to say, and all the different game modes are wide and varied and keeping this game very fresh. And it's going to seem very light maybe on the surface, but there's some really deep strategies here. So let's take a look at the basic setup. Now the basics of setup is that each player receives a territory board or a player board. This is where you'll be putting your buildings or building your buildings throughout the game. A couple spots are going to be locked, though. It'll cost you 3 gold to unlock those spots in order to build more buildings. At the bottom of the board, you'll see your palace. Again, 12 points of damage here will destroy the palace. Also, next to the palace, you'll see the available actions for the palace. Also, you'll take a cultural token and place it on the board. Again, 18 points of culture will win you the game. Also, each player receives dice and gold. Again, the gold is going to be dictated based on the game mode you are playing. And finally, each player receives this handy reference guide showing outlining your turn. It's very simple and straightforward, and it has a double-sided for a 2-on-2 versus game. Now, based on which game mode that you have chosen will dictate how you set up the level 1 and level 2 building cards, as well as the trade market area. And there's even character cards that come into play based on the mode you're playing. Now there's a bunch of different tokens and resources that you'll be tapping into throughout the game. You have officers who help you mitigate dice rolls, because yes, there are dice rolls in this game, allowing you to activate your buildings. And then you've got lock tokens. Lock tokens lock down a building and preventing it from doing some of its special abilities. You have attack tokens, which increase a building's or infantry attack. And then you've got health tokens, which increase the health of a building area. And then you have broken heart tokens, which are really cool, by the way, showing damage, specifically damage to your palace, right? And then of course you have gold, and then the minerals, which help in building or trading. And throughout the game, you also have option to acquire additional dice. Okay, so each game is broken down into 3 phases. You have the purchase phase, the building phase, and then the action phase. And in the purchasing phase, it's super straightforward. All of this is very straightforward, but you start to realize some of those deep strategies as you get some of those buildings out and you start building your engine, acquiring the different resources, and so forth. So on purchasing, you can spend 1 gold to get a level 1 building. Or you can exchange 3 cards, be them level 2 or level 1, to get a level 2 building from the pool. Now, if you don't like any of the cards in the pool, you can spend 1 gold in order to revamp this drafting pool. Now, it's important to note that all these building cards that you have acquired, they aren't actually built yet. They go below your territory board and they are placed face up, as it is fully open information about what you've acquired. Or you can choose to buy an additional dice. For 4 gold, you can buy additional dice that can be used 1 time in your next action phase. And you have the opportunity to buy officers. You spend 1 mineral to acquire 2 officers. Officers are fantastic because they allow you to augment your dice rolls. So there's a lot of different options on this purchasing phase. However, you are limited to 4 purchases. So now we move to the building phase, and it's strictly that simple. You pay the cost on the card located on the upper right, and you can build anywhere in your tableau. Now it's important to note that when you do build, those buildings are stuck in that position. You can't be shifting buildings around. However, another option you might do in your turn is if the building is not producing well for you, then you can just demolish it and remove it and move it to a discard pile off of your board, and freeing up space for something better. And most, if not all, these level 2 buildings have additional requirements beyond paying the cost. So to build a gym, you have to pay 4 gold, as well as there's a requirement on buildings that are already present. So you have to have an infantry or a cavalry already on your territory in order to build the gym. So these buildings do a lot of different things and have a lot of different requirements. Again, playing into the different strategies and how you build and when you build the different types of buildings. Now we move to the action phase, and this is when you're going to take advantage of your different buildings using dice to activate them. And each building can only be activated once per turn. Now, some of the buildings have a couple different options based on the dice rolls at the bottom. So you could do this or this. You can't do both. However, the palace is the exception. It has multiple actions you can perform, and you can perform all of those if you use all your dice there, but you still can only perform one of each. Now, so you'll roll the dice and apply the dice to the particular cards that match. Now, again, if you have officers, you can adjust the value of the dice up or down. So let's take a look at these 2 basic buildings. We have the farm. If you roll a 3 and place it on this card, then you're going to gain 3 gold. Pretty simple. If you have a 2, you roll a 2 and you place it on the infantry card, you're going to be able to perform 1 damage against your opponent. Now, there are barricades and things that you can put out front that you'd have to try to whittle down before you can get to your opponent's palace. Something to note, but generally you're trying to attack and do damage to their palace. And so, depending on how you've built out your territory will really dictate the different types of things your buildings are going to do for you. I mean, maybe you're heavy on getting minerals. Maybe you're heavy on getting gold so you can buy more things. Maybe you're all about those cultural points, leveling up, trying to hit 18 to win the game. Or maybe you're all about attack. You're all about going after your opponent. But again, you can be all about defense as well. So there's lots of trade-offs, lots of things to consider as you build out these territories. And maybe in the mid-game point, you might be just unhappy with how this building is performing. Like I said before, you can demolish it in favor of building something else there. So you might be changing strategies midstream. So again, depending on the game mode that you've chosen, you might be doing a lot of trading. So if you've created a market in your territory, then you activate that card and you'll move to the trading board, getting different resources and things of that nature. There's some standard ones at the top, and then you'll deal out cards along the bottom. And there's just a lot of different variations in this game. There's also the characters. So characters are kept secret. They're dealt out randomly, and they can be activated throughout the game. And if you don't even like them, you can discard them and gain 4 gold. But they have very different abilities. So again, the game changes up and plays so different, and you can really customize your games even. But there's several game modes in the back of the manual that help you along the way. And so the game comes to an end when one player hits those 18 cultural points, or one player has annihilated their opponent's palace. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form. So keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, I have to say, this is one of the best prototypes that I've ever received. It looks polished, almost complete. The components are beautiful, the artwork I really liked, and the fact that this game has so many different ways to play is just simply fantastic. I really like the 2-on-2. But the thing about it is that it's super simple. It's deceptively simple. There's a lot of strategies that come into play, and you start to see them as you play more and more. I really enjoyed that. But ultimately, folks, if this looks like a game that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.